Hi everyone, my name is Emily Coffee. I'm a Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Northwestern, also the Director of our Tour Guide program. And I'm one of the team leads for the Mid-Atlantic region, a regional representative largely for the New York City area, New Jersey, and Long Island, and the city itself.
All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Safiya Johnson. I'm a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions at Northwestern on the communications team. And I also work with Emily on our Mid-Atlantic team.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you all here. Like Safiya said, we appreciate y'all taking the time with us. We're going to talk a little bit about our supplemental essays at Northwestern.
Yeah, so to start talking about supplemental essays, it's important to figure out how do they factor into the admissions process. So more broadly, you've probably seen on our admissions website, or you've been to admissions offices, and you've been on information sessions, you've heard about holistic review. So we won't go too deep into it, but essentially holistic review means that the qualitative aspects of your application, so your letters of recommendation, your essays, your extracurriculars, they matter just as much as the more quantitative measures. So your GPA, your test scores, and things like that. So they all come together to tell your story. Who are you? Why are you interested in this university? And essays just give us an extra glimpse into more about why you came to be interested in this particular university if they have a supplement. So we'll talk a bit more about first essays and then Northwestern supplement more specifically.
Yeah, so kind of one of the things that we're thinking about when we read essays is first the quality of the writing, right? We're asking ourselves, is this student writing at an expected level for high school, maybe better? Are they prepared for writing at Northwestern? So you want to make sure it's a good bit of writing. You want to make sure that it represents your writing ability. So that means editing it a lot, making sure that you have kind of any grammar or spelling mistakes cleared up. Usually it helps to read it out loud or to have other people in your life read it, just to kind of check on those things. This also means making sure that the essay sounds like you, and you can do that with a few different tactics. So the first sounds a little bit obvious, but it's to write about something that you care about. I think a lot of times students are often worried about what we care about as admissions officers, but really we're interested in getting to know you, like Safiya said. So write about something that you care about, that you find impactful, that resonates with you. It doesn't have to be the worst thing that's ever happened to you, doesn't have to be the best thing that's ever happened to you. Keep in mind that your story is unique just because you're telling it. So you don't need to kind of worry about sharing kind of your personal story. And then kind of finally, just using words that you typically use. So you want to make sure that that essay sounds like you, really helps us get to hear your voice and kind of get to know a little bit more about who you are. That happens best when you're editing a lot and when you're writing about something that you care about.
Yes, and then so that's essays in general. Zooming into the supplement, some schools may have additional essays beyond just your Coalition for Score personal statement or your Common Application personal statement. They may also have additional essays specific to that university. And I think what's really important to consider, this whole process is about discovery. And supplemental essay prompts tell you a lot about that school, and hopefully you'll be able to read them and think to yourself, oh wait, these are my people. I love this. And then you'll think to yourself, great, I want to apply to this school because they're talking about traditions on campus that are important to them, that sound really cool. Or maybe they're asking about characteristics that I hold that are really dear and near to me too. So when you look at a school supplement, think to yourself and know that they're telling you these are the things that we value in the students that we bring here, but also in the community that we foster in our community. So we want to hear from you too, in the sense of, how will you add to this community? Typically is the gist of those supplemental essay questions.
A few other things to keep in mind. So, like Safiya said, every school that has supplemental essays is going to be a little bit different in how those look. Some of them will have required supplemental essays. Some of them will be optional. Some of them will be what we call highly encouraged. At Northwestern, we have one required statement and then a couple of optional statements. So it really will be different institution to institution. And your counselors, your teachers, admissions officers might have different perspectives on kind of whether optional is truly optional. So make sure to read the instructions, check in with those folks, and really try to get a sense for what the admissions office is asking for you. For Northwestern, we're pretty clear. One of them is required. One of them is optional technically. You don't have to turn it in, but we encourage you to write at least one of them. So they'll be often clear about kind of what their expectations are. Just got to make sure that you do the research on the front end so you know what those expectations are.
Yes, and I typically like to think to myself, When it comes to the application, essays are a great way, again, to like tell your story, add more, be more specific and about why I'm interested in the school, or like who am I, what do I care about. So if you see the opportunity to write a supplemental essay, hopefully you lean into the opportunity if it is optional. But if it is required, you definitely want to follow instructions and write the required essay.
For sure.
So to get started, we're going to talk about Northwestern supplement. And we're going to get started with our required supplemental essay question. So for that one required question that we have, in 300 words, we ask you, and this is the prompt, we want to be sure we're considering your application in the context of your personal experiences. What aspects of your background, your identity, your school setting, your community, your household, etc., have most shaped how you see yourself engaging in Northwestern's community, be it academically, extracurricularly, culturally, politically, socially, or otherwise? It's a lot of words. But you get a sense, right, from that, as I mentioned before, the value proposition. What do we really care about? And you get to tell us in return, what do I care about? So it's important to share not only what communities and places and lived experiences have shaped who you are, but also in your upbringing, what has shaped who you are, but how do you see that impacting yourself as a college student at Northwestern? And be specific, because this is our supplement for Northwestern. So how has all of these things, all these lived experiences, all these different communities impacted who you are, and how do you see yourself engaging with our specific community? So again, be specific, name parts of Northwestern's campus that are important to you. It could be clubs, it can be professors, it can be classes. But we want to know more about your experiences. And again, address that. How is it important to you? Why is it important to you? How has it shaped you? And all the different opportunities to talk more about your personal context. And how that really overlaps with Northwestern strengths are. Who are we?
Yeah, I like kind of thinking about these essays as giving us pieces to the puzzle, asking ourselves the question, like, who is the student now? How did they get here from the last 4 years? Who do they want to be in college? And then how does that play out specifically at Northwestern? And so this required supplement can be a great kind of start in answering those questions, especially that last question for us. How does that play out specifically at Northwestern? But I think our optional supplements also give students kind of a nice, a slightly, more specific opportunity to kind of talk about the ways that they might engage with Northwestern. I would encourage you to think a little bit beyond the prompt. We're going to go through these prompts kind of back and forth, each of them. Think a little bit beyond the question itself, kind of dig deeper, and like Safiya was saying, highlight how Northwestern specifically is going to be able to offer you a community experience or an academic experience that you're really, really excited about. It doesn't need to be life-changing. It's just meant to show us a little bit more about how you see yourself engaging at Northwestern. Again, it's important to be specific and be personal. It should not read like it could be for any campus, and it should not read like it could be for any applicant. We really are getting to know you and getting to know how you might engage with Northwestern. The first of these prompts is the Painting the Rock prompt. So I'll read it to you all. In 200 words, we ask you, painting the rock is a tradition at Northwestern that invites all forms of expression. Students promote campus events or extracurricular groups, support social or activist causes, show their wildcat spirit, what we call purple pride, celebrate their culture, and more. What would you paint on the rock and why? So it's in the question. I would encourage you all to think about why you might be painting the rock. Who might be there? Am I with a student organization? Am I painting something to highlight something about my community or my culture or just me, myself? Am I celebrating a holiday? Am I celebrating a friend? This might be an opportunity to highlight some of your values, your culture, your identity, your interests, and again, the ways you might engage on campus. I'll give an example. I had a student last year who wrote their Paint the Rock essay, a student journalism who was interested in sports journalism, and said that they would paint the rock to encourage people to come to sports that don't have the highest amount of turnout. So he specifically shouted out fencing, said they're an awesome team, and he wanted to shout out that specifically, get students to go there to kind of highlight the supportive Northwestern community and highlight these sports that he felt like deserved a little bit more hype on campus. Gives us a little bit of insight into his academic interests, but also into the ways that he might want to engage with our community.
Yes. And so we're going to go through, again, like 5 prompts. You can choose to answer up to 2 of them. Highly encourage you to answer 1. The second optional prompt that we have is, Northwestern fosters a distinctly interdisciplinary culture. We believe discovery and innovation thrive at the intersection of diverse ideas, perspectives, and academic interests. Within this setting, If you could dream up of an undergraduate class, research project, or creative effort, a startup, design prototype, performance, etc., what would it be? Who may be some ideal classmates or collaborators? So, really cool question. You probably have heard us mention that a lot of Northwestern students have more than one major. We have over 185 majors, minors, and certificates. There are a lot of things you can study here and do and get involved in, different centers. But this is a really cool way to highlight, I have multiple curiosities, or I have a really niche curiosity. And I really love that it's important to remember that we're asking you, again, who might be your ideal classmates or collaborators, and the who and the what are important questions to also answer in that prompt to be mindful of. But examples, we have students who just combine different areas of study. So they create a class that combines gender studies and art history, or maybe statistics and filmmaking, or a twist on a major even. So maybe you do manufacturing with only kids' toys, right? It can be really fun. And I've learned about a lot of really cool professors at Northwestern with this prompt. I've learned about really cool departments, just like niche readings, if you highlight a reading that you want to have in your class. Just have fun with it, and again, think it to yourself, what do I wish existed at Northwestern that we really need to study? And think about it, and tell us about it. We love it.
Awesome. Our next question is the community and belonging question. Community and belonging matter at Northwestern. Tell us about one or more communities, networks, or student groups that you see yourself connecting with on campus. It's kind of a similar question to the Rock, right? Getting a little bit more insight on how you might be connecting with Northwestern's community, how you might be getting involved in the existing community, but also how you might want to bring something to our campus that we don't have on campus yet. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, a student emailed me interested in performance opportunities for drummers on campus, specifically interested to know if there's a community for female drummers on campus. So a great option for her in this essay would have been to write about those communities that we got to discuss together. Drumline, Boom Shaka, these different organizations that we have, specific groups that she knew she might want to join, but also an experience that she knew she wanted to prioritize at Northwestern. And by asking about it and potentially writing about it, she got to kind of highlight that individual experience a little bit more for us.
Nice. You would know those communities.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the drummer community.
Nice. And our fourth question is, Northwestern's location is special. On the shore of Lake Michigan, steps from downtown Evanston, just a few miles from Chicago. What aspects of our location are most compelling to you, and why? Again, and why. So emphasis on there. But you can definitely want to paint beyond just broad strokes of the lake is beautiful and Chicago is so close. Go a little bit deeper. So examples of that can include talking about aspects of the city that you really love. A more specific example, two of them for you. Once a budding screenwriter who knows we're a city of neighborhoods, which I love that she knows that, is interested in the diversity in those neighborhoods. And along the way, the famous comedy scene that exists in Chicago, and the access that you have in Chicago, not only to big city politics, but also downstate politics, right? And that access along the different expressways. On the flip side, you may be a STEM student and you really love that there are national labs affiliated with Northwestern in the Chicagoland area, and there's quantum and particle physics you can get involved in, right? Also house music, if that's your scene, it can be. So yeah, tell us a bit more about the different parts of Chicago, Evanston, our location beyond just those broad strokes that really interest you, and why.
Awesome. The last question, our last optional question, Northwestern is a place where people with diverse backgrounds from all over the world can study, live, and talk with one another. This range of experiences and viewpoints immeasurably enriches learning. How might your individual background contribute to this diversity of perspectives in Northwestern's classrooms and around our campus? Again, this is one where it's okay to get personal, and it's good to be specific about kind of the Northwestern piece of it, how you might want to engage with Northwestern specifically and this community. Remember to, not only tell us about where you're coming from, the background and communities and identities that have shaped you, but to also tell us about your future, kind of how you want to engage here, your future as a Northwestern student in labs, classes, clubs, and maybe your future beyond campus as well. how are you adding to this campus, to this community, to this broader Northwestern network, and how do your kind of values from whatever background you're coming from align with the values that you found at Northwestern through your research and through your experience in applying to Northwestern. An example that I found from a student from this last class, she started a club in her high school to kind of encourage and facilitate interfaith discussions in a really diverse religious community in her high school. And then she wrote about how she was particularly excited to connect with Northwestern's Interfaith Initiative and really be a part of that same dialogue on this campus, knowing she had been a leader on her campus and excited to kind of join a group of leaders already in action on our campus as well.
Nice. Yeah, again, I learn a lot about Northwestern through our students, and I'm really excited to see the future of Northwestern through our students that apply. So I have a lot of joy reading your applications.
We do enjoy it, yeah, definitely.
And a note too, you may notice this, is that because we have a required supplement, it is optional to submit your common application or coalition application through SCORE, personal statement. And so probably when you're listening to us read some of these prompts, you realize actually that reminds me a lot about what I wrote about in my personal statement, which is fair. So you can choose if you want to use parts of your personal statement to answer our supplement, or you can use it as a jumping off point, so expand upon it, because we are still going to read your personal statement if you choose to submit your personal statement. And many applicants still do submit their personal statement. But again, we're giving you the option to, if you want to save some time, or you really think to yourself, I don't want to have you read this essay twice, you can copy and paste or use it as a starting off point for some of our supplemental essay questions that are optional, or the required one as well.
Awesome. I think we're just going to close out with a little bit of advice from each of us. Like Safiya said, we really do enjoy reading these essays. It's a really cool way to get to know our students. The holistic admissions model allows us to really take into account personal context and individual experience, but we only get to learn as much as our students can provide us, right? So that's why it's exciting to read these essays and really, get to hear your students' voice. And we hear a lot about how great you are from your recommendations, and we get all of this other information, but this is a pretty special part of the application process. My advice to you is going to sound a little bit trivial, but it's to be yourself throughout this process. Like I've said, there's nothing really more exciting than to get to hear a student's voice come through the application. It doesn't mean that you have to, get super personal. You get to decide your boundaries on vulnerability and everything. But it does mean that you shouldn't try to stay away from your personality or to shy away from your personality, because we're really excited to get to know you kind of through these essays and through these applications.
Yes, and my advice is to lean on your community. I know that looks differently to different folks. It can be your in-school or out-of-school advisor who's helping you through the college process. It can be an older sibling, a cousin. It can be a teacher that you really trust, but lean on people in this process, right? So make sure that they are reminding you to take breaks, to eat, to rest. Like it's really important, silly, but not really. So just lean on your community. I would say, if you want to have people proofread your essays, no more than 3 or 4. Don't have them edited, just proofread it, ask them questions. But that can be your community to support you through this process as well, particular to the essay application part of the process. But lean on your community, rest. Your mental health is important, but you got this. You'll get to the other side of this process, and you'll have a great college experience.
Yes. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We hope you learned a little bit more about Northwestern supplemental essays and kind of how we get to experience those on our side of things. Feel free to explore the rest of the Applied Learning playlist and make sure to connect with your regional representatives as well if you have any additional questions. Have a good rest of your day, and go Cats, everyone.
Go Cats.